what is the step change needed to ensure that these networks are successful? And what do we truly need to solve to impact this digital divide and finally put it to bed?
When I step back and think about the step change the industry needs to consume, $100 billion in, government funding, and, the reality that the industry already has private capital flows in the, 70 or $80 billion a year just in the United States, and hundreds of billions of dollars around the world. It comes down to three T's. And I love the concept that Will just shared: digitize everything, because you can't automate what you don't have in a system of record. But tools and techniques, should be embracing that digital life, and looking at best in class ways that have API flows between them, because there's no one system that does absolutely everything anymore, from billing through selling through planning through provisioning. Ultimately, there should be a system flow and architecture that enables that digitization value to be extended throughout. The second is talent. Ultimately, we need a trained workforce that can actually go build the networks we need, that can maintain the networks we need, can operate the digital tools, that has the right environment to create success, and the know-how and the knowledge and the certifications to get there collaboratively in the industry. And that's a big deal. We're asking the industry to do a lot, and people have to be enabled to do so. And then I think the last one is centered around transparency of the ecosystem. When we look at transparency, it's not just a provider perspective, that transparency, it really gets into the heart of policy and things that the governmental entities that control right away, that control access to rules around commercial building entrance facilities, where revenue and service isn't created until it goes into a building. But as we collaborate as an industry and solve this collectively together, we should be thinking about all three of those things to transform how we operate to the next generation.
So how we'll shift the conversation a little bit. How are these subsidy programs like RDOF, like the new LIFT program that's proposed, Reconnect, among many other state programs, how are these subsidies changing the landscape of the business for your part of the world in this industry? Or maybe said another way, how is it influencing how you now address your customer needs? Has it changed it at all? Sam, let's bounce back to you.
Sure, it's a great question, and I think almost more so than the upcoming funding programs, as significant as they are, is really the consumer demands for data that is driving and is really changing the game. I think the programs are doing a fantastic job at driving more balance from urban to rural areas, as they're intended to do. But if we think about demand prior to the year that was 2020, consumer demand was already growing at well over 20%, and now that's stepped up to 50% year-on-year growth. So I think more so than the programs, it's really that consumer demand. And in the absence of more than 50% additional supply and labour and materials like you folks at Corning produce, factories and so on and so forth, I think how's it changing it for us? It's really exaggerating the focus across the industry on maximising and optimising that ROI on your project is just even more critical. And so for solutions like ours, just enabling team accountability, providing visibility and control to ensure that utilisation is there and it's as high as it can be, and ultimately enabling contractor retention, I think is going to be even more critical than it's been in the past, because these people and teams and organisations are going to be in higher demand than they've ever been, and so keeping them efficient, keeping them productive, and keeping them on your project really becomes the main challenge over multi-year deployments.
So funding definitely doesn't seem to be the roadblock anymore, right? If you have a desire, you have a champion, chances are you can figure out a way to get a network paid for. But if you each could give me your perspective on the thing we're not talking about enough that you're passionate about, whether that's a blind spot, a roadblock that we need to break through, or the elephant in the room that we're just all ignoring. If you could give me short answers to those, that would be great. Paul, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. And like to what Will said before, I was literally going to say, yeah, what Will said, couldn't agree more. And I think part of this is, one of the blind spots is that there's this, I think, I'm not sure there's a willingness to really experiment and try small bets before really embarking on spending more. I think that is, even with this funding, I think that is almost a blind spot. We think we've got it nailed. No, we need to experiment a bunch, hand it out to a bunch and see what happens, and then see what rises to the top,
Yeah, continuing on the funding theme, I think like ultimately, over the long term, diversification is what's needed. Like it's not all going to work, and so a variety of approaches. Just to join on Will's chorus there. But you did ask the question around blind spots or elephants in the room, and barriers to adoption, and we're all focused on digital solutions and the impact that they can have. And we see a common misconception or sort of a reason for not moving away from the way it's always been done is this common misconception that construction folks are not ready to adopt technology. Construction folks have more expensive smartphones than any of us. We're all using geospatial technology to get, whether it's to school or the work site, and so that's just not the case, and we all see that in the markets that we operate across. I think like the real challenge is one of digital transformation bottlenecks. This conception that it's too hard to go digital. That's also not the case. Cloud-based technologies, very responsive technologies that can easily be implemented, and API-driven integrated solutions that can start in parallel with the existing way of doing things and then integrate really effectively over time are really the norm. And so I think pushing through just some of that inertia is one of the misconceptions out there.
I think I'd go back to, maybe it's not a blind spot, but a key theme would be going back to shared infrastructure. And really, when I say that, I'm talking about the supporting cast of a network, poles and ducts. And, just from experience with our customers who are doing aerial deployments all over the place, getting good data on the poles, and then getting make ready done, getting permitting done, and getting on the poles is a huge part of the time and expense of any of these projects. And to drive efficiency into that piece of the system and the workflow could be, I think it would be just massively productive for everyone. And then on the duct side, if I were the mayor of Fibertown, I'd be putting conduits under every street as fast as I could, and then exposing them for lease through a nice map.